I got into street law without really knowing what it was all about. I knew that I'd be working with students and teaching high school classes. I didn't know how frequently or where, and I didn't know what the subject matter was going to be. And I was pleasantly surprised. I ended up in a great classroom with a great teacher and a really dynamic group of students who were very excited to learn and who had a real practical interest in the subject matter. My expectations of the students were kind of what I was as a high school student, which was relatively unengaged and uninterested and preoccupied with things other than academics. But what I found is that once I got into the classroom and really started working with the kids, the more time I put into the lesson plans, the more time I put into preparing for class, the better their reaction to it was, the better their work product was between classes when they had homework and so on. They really blew my expectations out of the water and really rose to the occasion. I think for everybody the high point is definitely the mock trial at the end of the semester, where we get in teams, and me and my teaching partner coached our teams to do a mock trial in a courtroom at the end of the term. And the preparation that went into that was really very pleasing. It was a bunch of kids who, were from time to time reluctant to do the work for our class, who were going out on their own, talking with one another, strategizing and coming up with lines of questioning and so on. And I think that was really the high point. Although I have to say I was also very impressed by some of the more personal conversations that I had with them on different subject matters throughout the class. The semester after I taught street law, I worked in a court through an externship and came before a judge every day I was in court. If you can handle talking to a bunch of high school students, you can handle talking to a judge, because they're unruly sometimes and their questions come from all different directions, and you have to be ready to field whatever comes your way. And it definitely prepared me for that. It also helped me connect some of the issues that we cover in our law school classes with the lay person who isn't necessarily well versed in the law and that kind of thing. There were times where things that affect high school students, like their rights when it comes to receiving a speeding ticket, for example, their perception of what would happen to them was very different, or what the process was very different than what happens in reality. And they have this impression of the legal world that it's this black box that they have very little input into and very little control over. And I found it very rewarding to teach them about different legal processes and really empower them to be more active members of their communities, whether by participation in a legal system because they get a ticket, or because of their understanding of the voting system and so on. In addition to just being able to interact with people in high stress situations, which they are, dealing with high school students is very stressful, I definitely have to say that one thing that I learned and I find incredibly valuable is taking fairly complex legal issues and reducing them down to their very simple essence, and explaining those reductions of law, which is something that I think is valuable in practice when you are trying to explain concepts to clients and so on, who don't necessarily understand the legal framework, but want to understand what you're doing for them, so they can make decisions about their own rights and so on.